Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon, so should you. Enjoy your treat!
Among some of the biggest concerns that I hear coming back from SoulCalibur 6 into SoulCalibur 7 is the returning characters, and characters that I think are going to be new and stuff like that. So obviously we have our across-the-board characters that are going to be returning from the last game. This should be mostly everybody, with the exception maybe of Aswell and possibly Amy. I do think that Amy is going to be there. I made a video before about how we can have Viola and Amy in the same game, but if you played the Soul Chronicles, Amy is starting her transformation with her orb being transformed into Viola from Aswell in her Soul Chronicle, and we also have SCVI mentioned in the encyclopedia. If you play through all of Libra of Souls, you can unlock that. It talks about that he's under the tutelage of Lake Johan, and he's actually like 12 years old in that timeline so far. So we don't know if we're gonna have a super time skip. I'm assuming we're gonna have a few years of a time skip, only because where the story ended at the end of season 2, where the swords and shepherds are being gathered together to go out and seek the evil shards to help Ishka-Ak, who's seeming to be working under the influence of Nightmare, but she is talking to a disembodied voice in that everyone believes is actually Algol. And it's pretty much confirmed to be Algol at this point, but there's a lot of questions that are like left unanswered going into SoulCalibur 7 from a story standpoint. Now, besides the characters that I mentioned, I think there will be additional playable characters that weren't playable in 6. Like, I believe that Ishka-Ak is actually going to be a playable character, even though she might actually be an Edgemaster type character, just because of the way that she fought in SoulCalibur 6. I won't spoil it if you haven't played the end of the season 2 yet. And also Curtis, because Curtis, what happens to him in the story also, we can have another manifested character similar to Grow, but hopefully have a different move set. And there's a couple other characters that I think are actually returning, not to mention the season 3 characters that were planned, I want to say, for season 3, because they were actually in the game's code, that being Lizard Man, Yoon-Song, and Rock. I do still believe that I think the reason that these characters were held off on was A, to switch gears to go immediately into SoulCalibur 7, and also because of the fact that like these characters probably need an overhaul more than anybody else in the cast did. We see an overhaul with Hwang Sung-kyung, we saw one with Setsuka and other characters that were returning in this game, as this is a reboot, but the characters that were in season 3 needed the most rework out of everybody, because like Aeon is like Aeon Kalkos, or he's like a basic lizard man. Is he a sword and shield? Is he his dual axes? Like, there's a lot of reworking for that character that needs to happen to get him to be in a good place in this story and not just be like a random guy. Now, we do see lizard men race in SoulCalibur 6, which is why I think it actually is going to be Aeon. They're not going to make a separate character just for like a generic lizard man. If you can create your own, that's kind of like a moot point at that point. And I do believe they want to keep Hong Yoon-Song similar to the way he was before, but have him similarly upgraded or changed to fit the narrative of the story to be alongside Hwang and Sung-Mina, because their relationship with Sung-Mina kind of flipped from what it was in the old timeline, so they need to do some reworking in his character design to reflect that. That's usually how character design goes. And then Rock is obviously probably going to be changed somewhat because his backstory and something like that needs to be updated. So I do think that those are going to be updated. Now, if we do have Amy and Viola, I hope they are a character swap and not separate actual character slots. But whatever happens with that character happens with that character. I'm fine with it, and SCVI needs to be overhauled as well too, because I don't actually think he's going to be coming back with the werewolf stand type thing that he had before. I think he is going to be having something different, but we'll see what happens when it comes to that as well. I'm not sure about Curtis just yet, but I'll probably, as soon as we hear more information on that, like talk about that then. Now, I do think there are going to be some new characters, because there usually are. Since the boss was playable in SoulCalibur 6, being Aswell, I think there will be a playable boss for your, not only playable, but for character creation as well. We don't know who that's going to be yet. I think it is still too early for Algol to actually be a playable character, unless it's a kind of a pseudo-Algol, which is like Ishka-Ak transforming or being possessed by Algol. Then I can kind of see that working. So he's not at his full limit, he's just like using a portion of his power, and then we can have his play style that way. Beyond that, I think that like the boss character for this game is probably going to be Ishka Oct, and if she is a mimic character, somewhat similar to like Edgemaster, I don't think that like she is going to have a playable style in that point, because it just uses everybody's style. So hopefully she does have a unique style, even though her fighting tactics are pretty much transforming into other people to attack you. So it's pretty the chances are that like we're not gonna be able to play as her, or if we do, it's gonna be limited to something like offline modes, which probably should be a good thing. Now, I do also think there are gonna be other new characters. We saw the introduction of Grow in this game. So while they're not going to be like a huge expansion of extra characters like people are probably expecting to have, from SoulCalibur to like SoulCalibur 2 and so on and so forth throughout the series, we've always been introduced to like 1 or 2 new characters. You know, like we see Tira show up and then we see Setsuka show up. So there's not usually always a huge roster of characters that come into new games. So they usually introduce them like 1 or 2 at a time, just to like fully delve them out in their Soul Chronicles or their story, and just like get us to be familiar with that character before they introduce somebody new. It's better for the story and narration instead of like completely overhauling. Plus they also give us the character creation engine, so like if we do want somebody else, we can just like literally create them. But as far as new characters go, I do think we are going to see somebody new. I'm not sure whether it's going to be somebody from the Evolve organization that pre-exists and is going to be a playable character, just because of what happens with Curtis and with Grow in SoulCalibur 6. Somebody needs to like kind of represent that. I don't know either that, or it's going to be somebody from the Swords and Shepherds that wasn't playable in SoulCalibur 6, such as like Juan Gobak, not his monster form, but like his regular form, or one of the other Swords and Shepherds that are going to show up. I still think that like the Swords and the Shepherds may be the introduction of like Zwei and Viola, like mind-controlled Viola in that case, and then something's going to happen in the narration to get them switched over to the good side. But the Swords and the Shepherds are going to play a large role in this game, because they were completely set up in the end of Season 2 for being like pretty much the Akatsuki of like this game. So I do think that we are going to see some new characters in terms of the Swords and Shepherds, and I do think that they are going to be playable. Now, beyond that, any new characters for like the good side, besides like the characters that they're going to consider new, like returning characters like Hong Yoon Song and Lizardman, I'm not exactly sure if we're going to have like a brand new character. We might get one. That's what I'm thinking, is like we'll actually get like one brand new character for the good side that needs to be introduced that represents like somewhere around like Southeast Asia or Europe. That's usually where they go with. Whether or not that character is like incorporated heavily into other aspects of the game beyond the story I'm not sure. Maybe they'll use them, and they'll probably take the chance of the secondary story, like a Labor of Souls mode, to get you to know more about that character, because that's usually where the lore-heavy, dialogue-heavy stuff is in the secondary story modes, not the cinematic story mode. And whether they use a different kind of weapon is obviously up to developers. There's probably going to be something returning, hopefully, and like I know a lot of people really want back the kind of weapon style that we had from SoulCalibur 3, where you had like different styles for your creative character. I've been yearning for that back as well, so we'll see what happens with that. But in any case, like we are going to be getting some new characters at least to make the game feel fresh. There's a lot of things that like I still want. Everyone's been clamoring for Weapon Master mode to come back, so we'll see what happens with that. But as far as it comes right now, like we are going to be getting some new characters, and whether or not they are super exciting or not super telegraphed already is like going to be up to you to decide. I'm sure we're going to get like one new character, and then we're probably going to get like one new evil character, and then we're probably going to get a couple of the non-playable characters from 6 to be actually playable in this. But beyond that, we're not looking at too much more. But who do you want to see show up, or where do you want to see them show up from? Like, what kind of new character? If we do introduce a brand new character into the game, what weapon style would you like to see them use, and where would you like to see them from? Keep in mind how the game usually makes their characters. It's not Street Fighter or Tekken where you have characters from all over the world. They usually stick this pretty much primarily to like Southeast Asia and Europe. That's usually where the story takes place and how the story is told. But let your imagination run free and just give me whatever thoughts you want in the comment section down below. Now, before we go, I do want to get to the poll of the last video, and the poll that I actually mentioned was about concerning Street Fighter 6. How do you feel about battle passes in full-price games like Street Fighter 6? 7% of people said that they like them, which is the lowest, which is understandable. 42% said they are neutral to them. 12% said that they wouldn't pay for it. 27% said that they are bad for consumers, and 12% said that they hate them. And this is out of a pool of 121 votes, and you can see some comments there. Be sure to go over to the community tab and check on this week's poll as well, so your comments can show up on next video. And that's going to be the video for today, guys. I want to thank you for watching. If you want to join the conversation down in the comment section down below, or you can come over to the Discord with the description box down below. You can find the link. Any thoughts are always welcome. As I always say, guys, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.